Hello, welcome to a new podcast called Smoke Breaks with myself. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I shall. I am Kyle.
He shouts as well.
Hi, I am Andrew,
Kyle in the building.
also known as DJ Smallwick.
And in this podcast, we will be mainly talking about music, anything new coming out, our favourite albums of the year, which is something we're going to talk about today. Mainly about music, anything current going on that we think is interesting for people to talk about. So what should we go into first? So our first
There's this
topic.
guy. He's kind of gotten quite big in the last few years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just a guy called Joji.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think I've heard of him, yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
George Miller.
It's George Miller,
Yeah.
the pink guy, as some may know him as, or Filthy Frank. However, he's gone on some artistic endeavors, and Joji, the new alias he's adopted and probably will be adopting for the imminent future, has just released a new album. And it's something we can all discuss because we've had a month to listen to it, and I think we've all got a lot to say about it.
Oh, sure.
So,
Oh, so much, Kyle. Go ahead. You got so much. I know you're just raring to talk about
Where
it.
do we begin? Do we talk about the first album? Do we talk about the history? Because I guess we could go into, like, the albums before he was
Well,
Joji.
Let's give our views of the latest album. The album's called Nectar. It came out, around about a month ago.
Yeah.
Should we give our opinions on it versus Ballads? Because Ballads was really his first go into an actual album. So it was kind of an upgraded version of, what was it called? In Tongues.
In Tongues was
his
yeah,
first,
it
like,
felt
EP.
very much like an EP, but it's
Yeah.
still considered an album, I think.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I think it was like an EP. I'm
Yeah.
not too sure. Don't quote me on that.
And
I
then,
think when he signed to 88 Rising, that's when Ballads came out.
yeah, that all kind of happened at the same time. And yeah, so Ballads, I thought Ballads was really, really good.
I loved it.
It was a massive step up from In Tongues, because In Tongues, we're going to go more about its history in a bit, but In Tongues was very similar to the stuff that he'd released semi-secretly on his SoundCloud, which he didn't really advertise, but obviously people being interested in him managed to find it. I think Ballads was really good. He had some good features, but for me, Nectar was kind of a step up, like next level,
Yeah.
a lot more mature.
I
as well.
feel like it was that sort of Ballads had to kind of walk,
Yeah.
so Nectar could run.
literally.
Essentially, like
Yeah.
I think "Slow Dancing in the Dark" from Ballads would just hit off.
Mm-hmm.
And
I still consider it his best song, though. That's my issue
Slow
at the minute.
dancing, really.
Yeah, it's still. Oh, actually, I'll take that statement back in a minute because we'll talk about a couple songs on Nectar that I might have changed my mind about slightly. But the problem is, it is his biggest track, and it's such a huge thing to like. It's like Queen doing Bohemian Rhapsody. How can you follow that up?
Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
true.
how do you follow that up?
Let's
and
see.
I think he's done a good enough job of it,
Yeah.
but that was like a big obstacle to come up against.
So-
'Cause production-wise, that is incredibly
Yeah.
well produced.
So currently, "Slow Dancing in the Dark" on Spotify is at 481 million streams. The next song behind that is "Yeah Right" with 282 million.
Which is no small feat.
Oh, yeah,
But
we're
yeah,
talking
right. That's
hundreds
a
of
big.
millions.
I've just got to say because I one of my biggest regrets was like last year. I went to Reading and I didn't know much of Joji at the time, but I remember one of my friends was banging on about we need to go see Joji because it was in the space of like half an hour. I had to go see the Wombats, Dylan Francis, and Joji. And we got onto the sides of it was the Radio 1 tent, I think it was, and then everyone was just shouting Joji, Joji, and then he opened with Yeah Right, and honestly, it's better listening to it with like 1,000 people just singing. Gonna fuck up my life.
Literally watching because I've watched a lot of his shows on YouTube, and his stage presence, the difference of how it was at the start up to now, because I know we're going to go and talk about his past in YouTube, and he's struggled with, I think he had a brain condition, which he mentioned about in that video on YouTube, which I think kind of maybe knocked his confidence, or he's spoken about how he's had struggles with confidence in the past.
Yeah.
But when you look at him on stage now, he is extremely, confident. He just
Like it's
doesn't
not
give a shit.
just
He's
this,
really just enjoying himself.
It's not this persona anymore.
No.
He's genuinely
He
like
started doing
feeling
the Fortnite
it.
dance on stage.
Yeah, that's what he does. Yeah, right.
Doing
He does
like
a little
cartwheels and
that thing.
stuff and everything.
Yeah.
He loves it. Yeah, right. It's like his proper like flex song on the
Yeah.
stage when he's just like, I don't give a shit. I'm just gonna do whatever I really want to do.
And then he played. I managed to see three. I think it was 3 songs. He did, yeah, right. And then he did an in tongue song. Will he?
Yeah.
That
yeah,
went
yeah.
off. That went
That's,
off.
That's
Yeah.
the first track on the
First
album.
track.
That was
yeah.
like his first. I think that's the first time I ever saw his music on a trending page. I remember going on trending and seeing Will He and Joji. I was like, oh shit, he's doing serious music now.
Yeah.
He's going for it. I remember watching a video like proper artistic, like, isn't it? There's a girl who's got like an arrow through her head, and she's in like a pool of blood, and yeah, that video was amazing. The song's amazing. And I was like, oh, he's actually like taking it
Still holds up today as well.
seriously.
I'd say
Yeah,
that track still really holds up today. And I feel like that was the benchmark track, like in terms of in Joji going in full simp mode. That's like that's because but most of his songs are him like simping over a girl or something like that.
Why?
Yeah, why'd you leave?
But I guess like him producing his own music now, signing to 88 Rising, he's touring with them, he's doing his own shows, not just going on the 88 Rising tour. I feel like once he started producing his own music away from YouTube, that was the kind of like distinct separation from kind of doing what his audience wanted and doing what he wanted. So you had the Pink Guy albums, which he even said himself, they were just like, Pink Guy is the most like just anti everything that's socially acceptable, as was Filthy Frank. He's been like heralded as the anti-vlogger of YouTube. Like no one's taken that place.
Yeah, his channel just couldn't survive nowadays.
Yeah.
It could survive. He just wouldn't make a dime on it because
no.
every video would be
Like
demonetized.
he'd have to merch, like do anything. He'd have to rely on like non-serious albums creating a ridiculous amount of revenue, which just isn't a good structure whatsoever with social media anymore.
Because any day he could just get cancelled. But like he moved completely away from the.
Tried to cancel him during the.
Yeah, because people randomly found out. They were like, "Oh shit, Joji's this guy from YouTube." Because there was people. They were like, "Oh my god, who's this? This guy eating a hair cake looks a lot like Joji. He looks a lot like Joji." And then the people were trying to cancel him because they heard the Pink Guy stuff, and it's like, yeah, that's from like 5 or 6 years ago, and
It's harmless as well.
Yes.
It's meaningless as well. So
yeah, it was never. Yeah, there was never like mean spirit behind his music. It was purely just supposed to be just the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
you know what it
People
shows
liked
as well?
but was
It
that.
shows as well that his fan base is big enough to the point where you can't cancel him.
No.
Yeah, it's like let's take I don't even know. I'm trying to think who's a big enough artist that it would be a good example that they couldn't be cancelled.
Kanye.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
Kanye has
example.
gone through mood swings
He
and
tried
a
his
half.
hardest to cancel himself, but everyone's just
Yeah.
like, your music's
Yeah.
good still though.
President, like do whatever you
Yeah.
want.
Did you see
like,
that he's just designed Joe Rogan's new studio?
Did he design it?
Yeah, I think he might be. Don't quote me on it, but there was a picture of those two together in the new studio, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna make you a new studio because everyone hates the new red studio."
Oh,
yeah.
Everyone hates it, and there's a picture of him on Instagram, and I'm not too sure. I'm fingers crossed that they do a podcast together.
It would make
It
sense,
would
don't you
be
think?
amazing, yeah.
But
It would just be 4 hours of just pure chaos, just like no like full thoughts. It's just like a stream of consciousness
have you
for 4 hours.
have you read Leviticus 7:13?
I'm like, mate, a minute ago you were just talking about the new Yeezys. How have you got to
Yeah,
that point?
like you partnered with Gap, and then all of a sudden, like President Kanye.
I think we went down a rabbit hole there, didn't we?
Rabbit hole, deep down.
Nah, it's good. I like rabbit holes. We just got to make sure that we crawl back out. of
Yeah.
them.
So back to Nectar. I think Nectar is very, very good. I think it's mature. I think it's a good. He still gets his fun songs. Like Pretty Boy is just a fun.
Yeah.
Pretty Boy's kind of like his. I could see him getting on stage and doing the same dance moves that he does.
Yeah,
For yeah.
like,
right.
it's
like
got
imagine
that
Pretty
groove to
Boy
it,
comes
yeah.
and he's just like
Like you
messing
could
about.
easily have him just like going around the stage, like just like he's like throwing shit out like merchandise or something, and he just goes, "Hey,
Yeah, and the whole crowd just starts-
and
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
everyone's
Oh,
just
mate, yeah,
jumping.
goosebumps here even
Yeah.
thinking about it.
Because you can hear the ad libs in the background. It's just like crazy noises that you'd hear from like Pink
Yeah.
Guy songs. Like
Oh,
for
yeah.
that song, it hasn't changed. I'm not sure if he still uses GarageBand anymore.
He still does.
Does he
He
still?
still does, yeah.
That is insane that he still uses GarageBand to produce his music.
But I think that's what I like about it. Like, he brings in so many different sort of like sounds that you don't really hear. He's always harmonized his own voices. Like, he knows he's not an Adele or a Beyonce where he can just hold a note and it sounds incredible. Like, he starts harmonizing with himself. He brings in all of that, and then he's making the tracks. So he's not just going into a studio like, oh, what do you think of this beat? He's making a beat specifically to whatever he wants to do.
He knows how to make a song sound good.
Yeah.
Which is just the end of the day. Like, if he has a song where he's like, I can't quite hit these notes, he works out a different path he can go down to make it still sound good and people like it.
Yeah.
What do we think about Yachty's feature?
Next question.
Next question.
You know what?
I'm not the biggest fan
I think
of
it works.
Yachty.
I think it works.
Yeah.
Just because obviously Yachty's very much very processed heavy, like auto-tune.
Yeah.
But I think he does work to a good level. It's like we'll talk about Omar Apollo in a minute because I've got very mixed opinions about him. But Yachty works, in my opinion, as well. Especially because it's a trap beat as well. If it was like, it wouldn't work.
Yeah, no, Yachty definitely couldn't have been on any other song on the album. Like,
Yeah,
that's the only
for
one
sure.
it makes sense on, and still, it wasn't my favourite because I was like really bumping the track, and then it got to that point. I'm like, okay.
Also,
but
it
not
wasn't
the
supposed to be a
worst.
song. You know when he uploaded it on YouTube,
He
it was
did
like,
his little
not
1
song.
minute, yeah, yeah.
A song. Like,
Song, not song.
Song, not song, yeah. Not song yet.
Yeah, pending feature.
Yeah.
I would love to know if Yachty just saw it and just heard the beat and was like, yo, can we make this a
Yeah,
song?
yeah.
Like, please.
Because they did, I think they did something with GQ. They did an interview together once,
Yes, they
and they
did,
were talking
yeah.
about internet trends.
They were
And-
eating something. I can't.
Oh yeah, they got to try like different like snacks. They
Yeah,
were talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
because it was the time when like Pokemon Go was sort of like
Yeah.
just started like declining.
Yeah.
And they were talking about it, and like
They
obviously
seemed like they had a lot of the similar tastes
Yeah.
in just like culture, different games,
Yeah.
just anime and that type of stuff.
yeah. But it's weird to see how he acts with like at that time. Like Lil Yachty, he was at the point where he was sort of establishing himself, and
Yeah,
Joji
yeah.
was still up and coming. Just how you've seen him from like the YouTube career and like the vlogs that like Max Mofo would do versus like how he acted with Lil Yachty and just being like,
Yeah.
like, oh, here's like, what do you think about Pokemon Go? And Lil Yachty just goes like, oh, like, did you play that at all? Like, I didn't fuck with that at all. And you can just see Joji go, nah, but like, I knew it was crazy. Like it was here. Like, he just has such a different like persona.
I think he needs to calm down a bit. People still love how he acts. He's still fun. He's still
Yeah.
funny. He makes his jokes, but I think he knows that it's a different industry where
Yeah.
he wants people to take it because a lot of his music is very serious. So he doesn't want to like overshadow that with just like, hey, look at me, I'm really goofy.
Yeah.
Like, this music's serious is like, take it seriously.
Yeah.
It's the thing though. I've only seen a little bit of Pink Guy's stuff, but it's a big change in personality. Obviously, I understand that Pink Guy and Filthy Frank is a character, but it's so weird observing him and being like, so he's actually pretty normal, like compared to say someone who's actually running around the streets like flipping people's
Yeah.
caps off.
How much of that do you think it is with like because he was like born and grew up in Japan and then he moved to New York to go to university and like when he turned 18. So do you think like growing up and sort of being like heavily influenced by the US but being in quite a conservative society like Japan versus America, like how much do you think like that kind of projected how he is now? In terms of he's really serious, but there was a time where he was just producing all of this wacky content that was just so not PC to the point where, like you said before, like people were trying to cancel him once they found out.
I think it means that he can see both sides of the coin and he can do both because at the same time as bringing out Pink Guy music, he was bringing out the music on SoundCloud on the account Chloe Burbank. And it was kind of weird that he was bringing it out on a secret account that he wasn't showing people, the serious stuff, the stuff that people may say takes more talent, but he was advertising and he was uploading to his main channel, the Pink Guy stuff. It's kind of a weird choice to do it that way, but he knew that the stuff that he was bringing out by Pink Guy would be more popular because it was so outlandish and just risky.
I guess on top of that, it's one of those things where, like, he started producing it because, like, I think he released a video which he took down later on where he sort of like revealed where he lived. He was talking about how he got a lot of like seizures related to the stress and the anxiety of the sort of content that he had to actually produce in order to like maintain the weekly or however frequently he
I think it was the only video he ever did where he wasn't in character, which I think really shocked people because he was just sat just himself.
He was literally like, "Hey, it's me." Like there was no sort of, "Well, how'd he do?"
Yeah, he still because he
introduces
still
himself.
in the video he still had characters,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they added to. They added a bit of comedic effect because obviously when you bring out a video like that after you've relied on characters your entire YouTube career, you don't want people to just end up getting bored or because you watch it, you want it to be just fun, a funny video, but he wanted to get the point across while still keeping their attention rather than them just being like, "Oh, he's talking about serious shit. I don't care about this really."
But I feel like at the time, because he was just producing so much content, like for the audience rather than what he wanted to do, he hit that point of like creative exhaustion, but still had the pressure to keep on coming out with all of that stuff. And I think he'd have either hit a point of creative exhaustion or he would have just had those stress related seizures that would have been so bad for his health. He'd never have been able to produce his own music because he'd never wanted to be successful. He'd never wanted to sort of blow up and be on stage because the idea of that sort of audience wanting to hear him, it would just like unearth all of that stuff from like 2-3 years before.
I think a lot of the stress would have, obviously we don't know exactly what it was, but I feel like a lot of it's got to be connected with the thought that any day his career could have ended. If out of nowhere, YouTube's just like, this content demonetized, all your money gone. Because I don't think he really had much merch at the time. It was kind of before merch became a necessary
staple
became,
for people.
Every YouTuber now has
Like,
merch. At the time, I don't think he did.
I think it was like 2013. He kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
And then 2014 was when the Chloe Burbank SoundCloud set up. And then In Tongues came out, was it 2015 or 2016, I think? And then Ballads was 2018. And
2016, actually, I think it was.
2016,
Tongues,
yeah. So then it was sort of like this 2-year break of in-between stuff where he was able to tour, he was able to do his own stuff. He signed to a label, which, you know, isn't an easy thing to do.
No.
There's a lot of complexities within that.
You're telling me.
Yeah.
And he's arguably the one who has had the most success on the label. Because Rich Brian is really
Brian's
popular.
done
And
well.
I think Rich Brian has done really well, but I don't think he puts up the numbers that Joji does. Like, Rich Brian has had some really big songs, but I feel like they were songs maybe before he was on 88 Rising. I can't remember what the song was called, but that initial...
Sick.
I think that it's likely still his biggest
Yeah.
song, and that was way before he was in 88 Rising.
But even if you look at the 88 Rising album that they came out with, Midsummer Madness, like if you actually look at the streams per individual song, anyone that has featuring Joji is 10 or 15
Yeah, he's a
million
views
streams
magnet.
ahead.
He really is. Yeah.
It just shows as well. I feel like with the 88 Rising label as well, it shows how far his like fans reach out. So you've got, obviously, if you make it big in America, you're going to make it big anyway. But the fact that he's made it big in Asia is huge, huge. Like the whole K-pop thing is one of the main things that 88 Rising was like planning on kicking off, but they rather just invested their time into say artists who weren't, you know, traditionally doing K-pop, like who like Blackpink and BTS,
Yeah, who have also gone absolutely mental.
Yeah.
But
then their numbers are ridiculous and their fan base is like crazy huge.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Really
I think they broke
huge.
the record. What did I say to you the other day? They had the record for the most views in the first 24 hours of the YouTube video. I think it was like
140 million or something.
yeah, so it was like first 24 hours of a
But I
YouTube
think
video.
It was either they hit 140 million 24 hours or they broke Taylor Swift's record, which was 140
Yeah,
million.
but it's just numbers that Like, if you name some of the biggest artists in the US
Yeah.
and the UK, you'd think of who gets those numbers? Maybe Ed Sheeran when he brings out a really big song, or a song by The Weeknd, or Drake. Like when Drake brought out Popstar,
Yeah,
that wouldn't
that's
have
got, that's
even
got millions of views.
Yeah, but probably a couple 100 million views
Yeah.
now. But 24 hours is not doing
I
those
think- I
numbers
think
anywhere close.
I think it's a completely different type of fan base as well.
Yeah.
Because like if you're a big Drake fan, like I've watched that video 3 or 4 times just because you got Justin Bieber in it. You're like, this is actually really cool.
It's a cool
Like,
concept.
Everyone has the social distance. Drake couldn't fly into the US to do it.
Yeah.
Like, who can we bring in that is actually going to like make people go, oh, that's pretty
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
cool. And then they just put Bieber in it. They've obviously got the lyric. Shit don't usually pop off without a Bieber face.
Yeah.
Like, it just works so well. And even then, I don't think it's anywhere close to 100 million streams now.
Oh, no.
But it's also dependent on the type of fan base. Like you've got, I don't want to say toxic, but like let's take Nicki Minaj's fan base, or Beyonce, the Beehive, where they
Queen Bee.
yeah.
Beehive.
If you say anything,
Christ, I haven't heard that before.
anything remotely bad about Beyonce, I can guarantee you there'll be 1,000, maybe 1 million people.
Yeah, you'll
coming-
probably get
gonna-
recorded.
Just gonna
reported
cancel
and
you.
banned whatever site you're on.
And they're gonna be like, "Nah, you can't be saying that. It's Queen Bee. She's the queen." You know, like it's
That's
just silly
the
stuff
thing
like
with
that.
stans, and
Yeah.
it really is like
Yeah.
the stan culture. It feels like it really has started in Korea and Asia with groups like BTS and
Yeah.
Blackpink. Like if they need anything trending, it is top trending everywhere within
Yeah.
like 5 minutes on
Do you
Twitter.
not think it's all a bit fake and glamorized though? Because the guy, I don't know any of the guys' names on BTS, but when they go on like the Graham Norton show, they're like, "We're here to spread love and peace." Like, oh my god, and then all the girls like, "Oh my god, he's so cute!" Like, "Oh my god!" Like, can you not tell he's like reading a script from
Yeah.
backstage? Like,
Yeah. I know the one who's sort of like the lead guy is called Jimin.
Jimin.
Like, because he's the one that actually speaks English quite well, which is the only reason why I remember his name.
Yeah.
Because like whenever you see the interviews, he's the only one talking. But yeah, it's crazy how like their music, because obviously like if you can sing when you're like 11 or 12 years old, you are like taken.
Oh yeah,
And
it's
you're-
like
you're
you're going
trained
to
to
like
dance,
yeah, it's like
like,
this is an
the-
army boot camp.
The
You're
amount of
going
plastic
through, like,
surgery they have on their faces as
Oh,
well.
yeah, yeah.
Like their skin's bleached. Like
Yeah.
like you can tell by looking at the people who are signed to 88 Rising that isn't what.
No, AA Rising it's
it's a bit more
completely
gritty.
different.
Yeah, it's a bit more gritty with it.
But like based on the look, it's night and day. It's like looking at like, I don't even know, like from a culture perspective, it would be like looking at Germany versus the US in terms of like how they appear in terms of like Asians. Like they don't per se actually look Asian. Like they're completely Americanized in that sense.
They want to look like a hentai, like
Yeah.
hentai.
Hentai.
Yeah, no,
Clear
so like
skin, perfect nose.
yeah, hentai model. I was meant to say.
jawline.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's
weird.
It's like an actual like plastic surgery version of airbrushing.
It's a type of thing where you can imagine. When I look at it, I'm like, I feel like there's like board meetings each week where they're just like, how do we create the new BTS? And they have like a formula where they're just
Yeah.
like, let's get this amount of people, make this type of music, and it just equals big money, big stands. And it's just but that's what it is. They just want to get those stands because that is revenue on anything. Like those
Yeah.
they get those types of views because, not saying they had, it's not 140 separate people watching that within the 24 hours.
Yeah.
It might be 20 or 30 million that are repeatedly
F5,
streaming it because they're there with their friends,
F5,
just like,
yeah.
we need to help them break the record. It's like you've got millions of employees for you just juicing the numbers up.
Never thought
Which
about it
doesn't
like
mean
that.
they don't
Wow.
enjoy it, but it really
Whereas-
is that.
Whereas going back to like the Drake example of Popstar, like I've seen it maybe 5-6 times. And how long has that video been out?
Maybe.
been-
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah,
Man.
exactly.
But I'm just hearing you talk
kinda-
about it. I'm
you
like
kinda go,
intrigued.
Oh yeah,
I think it's been out like a
that's-
month.
Yeah,
maybe.
You go like, oh, that's pretty cool, but you're not going like, oh, if I listen to that song,
No.
I have to see the video.
You don't feel an obligation to consistently try to like keep watching it and try to get the views and buy everything that he makes. You can like his music, but you don't feel like
Yeah.
a moral obligation to be like, we need to make sure they get to
Yeah.
the top of this. Which it seems like with groups like BTS, the fans feel like
Yeah.
obligated to like buy everything that they make, watch all their shows, like all their tweets.
But
It's just like the Taylor Swift video. I was like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
saying like, or is that a song? Well, she got loads of like guest people like Cara Delevingne,
Oh,
Ellie
Bad
Goulding.
Blood.
Yeah, Bad Blood. She got so many different like guest stars stuff, and that's the. I think that's the one that held the record. Am I right?
It
Before
must have
BTS
been.
came in,
I can have
Because
Yeah.
it was just,
Yeah.
it had everybody in it, didn't it?
it had
Yeah.
it had everyone you'd associate with girl power. I think.
Yeah, but I feel like it's to them, obviously, like to BTS, it's so much like going in and breaking those records is so much more of a statement than maybe having a number one in the UK or the US, because I don't think they've reached that point yet. But the fact that they've broken a YouTube record,
Yeah.
which YouTube,
Well, we're
being,
speaking
like,
about it.
yeah,
So it's,
exactly.
Yeah.
Here we are, and then we fell down that rabbit hole. Of,
Yeah, we just spent time speaking
K-
about that when I don't
K-pop.
think I've heard
Yeah.
a single BTS song, but I still know that they're breaking records and stuff, which
Yeah, it's
I guess is
ridiculous.
what the aim of their stance is.
Yeah,
To
and
just
and the
spread
record label
awareness.
the record label they're signed to, 98% of their revenue comes from their songs.
And this is a record label that was around, I think, at least 10 years before BTS
Before
were.
they were a thing.
So, yeah, this is something where BTS have
Do you know
come
what
in.
the label's called?
Big Hit Entertainment, is it?
Yeah.
Big Hit
Yeah,
Entertainment.
BHT.
Yeah,
Or BHG.
yeah,
Because they just they
went
just
public.
IPO'd as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
And all the BTS members have shares in it. They got given shares,
6.8
which I guess you do if you bring in
million.
90.
Sweet money.
Yeah, when you,
6.8 million worth of shares, right? And that was based off of a lower price
Yeah.
than it actually went in at.
and I think
So-
the price doubled instantly when it opened, so they
Yeah.
instantly got
So
double
they
that.
instantly made. Well, they'd have gotten the shares for free as
Yeah.
well. So they're instantly 12.5 million richer.
Yeah.
Instantly.
I think something happened recently which actually didn't it make the stock drop like 30% because
Oh,
I
they
think
said
yeah
something
BTS
about
they
China.
said yeah I think they were at a talk like a public talk, and they mentioned something about China when talking about like the war.
Oh, it
and
was
Yeah,
it
it
was-
just didn't go down well.
yeah, it was it was the North-South war, and they thanked U.S. soldiers for their part in it, but they didn't thank the Chinese soldiers.
So
So
China
has banned their music
yeah
and all of their merchandise from ever entering China.
yeah. It might be a short.
big market as well. That if you don't
Yeah.
penetrate the Chinese market, you're going to lose a lot. Of
It might be a short-term thing where I feel like BTS will probably, like, their management will be like, just come out and say sorry, and they'll get rid of the ban, because the stock dropped 30%. That is a big
Stupid.
cost for
Yeah,
the for Big Hit Entertainment.
yeah,
Should we move on to a different topic now?
yeah.
Should we talk about the best albums this year or biggest albums?
Yeah.
Because the
Well-
first one instantly coming to my mind is After Hours. For
Yeah.
me, the influence it's had on this year. If we just straight away talk about Blinding Lights and the
biggest
influence,
song of the year.
yeah,
The
and
Easily.
the influence TikTok has had on that, and I know we're going to mention the influence that TikTok has had on music practically this entire year. Any of the top
it's
songs that I can think of are
blown
songs
up.
that have blown up through TikTok.
Let's see, The Weeknd.
Savage Love, Jason Derulo.
Yeah.
Jason Derulo has had a mad year.
Oh yeah, he's like one of the biggest TikTokers now, which
Yeah.
is a bit
So,
weird.
what's
But
that song? Beat Doobie?
oh, Beaver Doobie, I think
Doobie,
she's
yeah.
called, yeah.
forgot
I don't
what-
think that's the song.
Sorry,
Kyle's looking at me like, what? Is that English?
Oh, wub, bub, bub.
I think that's an artist name.
Yeah. and
Oh,
the
right,
guy,
okay, I
He
thought you
rapped
called it
over. I've forgotten the rapper's name, and he made it big.
Yeah.
It was all about the girls like, oh my god, the boy moves into the neighborhood. Should I approach him? Should I not? Like for part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we go back to The Weeknd, Blinding Lights is at 1.58 billion streams.
And that came,
1.58
Oh.
billion
Blimey.
streams.
and that's just Spotify.
That's just
That's
Spotify.
without music. video.
Considering-
it came out last year.
It came out in January.
I think
It
it came
become-
out January or February.
Yeah.
I swear
check.
it came out in December.
Was it his first?
It was the. It
Was it
wasn't
the first
fir-
single for
No,
After Hours?
It was
After
Never
Hours
Need a bitch
was
and want a bitch need.
yeah.
That was the
After
first
Hours
one, yeah.
actual. Yeah, Heartless. Yeah. Let me see when Blinding Lights came out.
Blinding Lights release date.
I released 2019.
Yeah, I remember it coming.
November
I remember it
29th.
coming
November,
out.
yeah.
And it only got big maybe 3 or 4 months later after it got released.
Yeah.
Because actually, when the videos initially came out, Heartless was actually, because Heartless was the initial single, and
Yeah.
when I first heard Heartless, I was like, "Oh, this is The Weeknd's MO. This is the type of thing that's just gonna
Yeah.
pop off for him." I was like, I enjoy it, and then Blinding Lights came out. I quite liked it because I like that 80s
Yeah.
It was a big old
synthy
U-turn,
type
wasn't
of.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's had different songs like this before. Like instantly, I thought of Odd Look from
Yeah.
Kissland album, where he had that more Asian themed synth
Yeah.
type of pop track. So I really liked it. I actually preferred it to Heartless, but I didn't think, like, straight away I was like, I don't think this is gonna bang as much because it's not as palatable.
Yeah.
But somehow it
Yeah.
got really popular. It is a fantastic song, and then just TikTok just takes it to just a different.
I'm still not sick of it as well. Do you not, even if it gets played on the radio, I'm like, turn it up.
Yeah.
I'm not like, it's like if you listen to music for like enough time, you'd be like, okay, I'm gonna get it out of my
Yeah.
playlist because I'm sick of it now. But that has been in my playlist since it got released.
Which is mad when I've listened to it a lot because I've listened to the album a lot. Is on TikTok all the time. They play it on the radio.
Like,
It's
it's
everywhere.
easily like I already know like my end of year like Spotify most listened to is going to be like
Yeah.
150 hours of the weekend.
Yeah.
Without a
Yeah.
shadow
Yeah.
of a doubt. Like I remember when that album came out and I said to you like straight away like I've already listened to it twice through this morning.
Yeah.
And that was like 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like it came out at 5. I was up at 6. I'd listened to it. I got on the bus, listened to it the entire way there, and I was on my third
Yeah.
time telling you, this is the one you're
This
going to
is-
like.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is the one you're going to like.
Yeah,
and
because
you
I
messaged me.
wanted to save it till, because it came out on the Friday, so I was like, I'll save it till after work. It means like I can have mates round, we can listen to it, have some beers. And Kyle was like, well, you're gonna like this, you're gonna like this.
Yeah.
He gave me
And
like
I was right on every
yeah.
single one.
He's like, this is your opinion before you've listened to it. You can't
Yeah.
change it.
I remember it was the first thing we talked about when I got back from uni at Christmas time, and I was just like to him, Kyle, generally I'm convinced this is his best album.
It's a solid
Well,
album.
yeah,
Would-
should
would
we
you
should we
say-
go through that?
Would you say it's his best album?
I think every album by him has a different
It's a
like
completely
feeling
different
to it.
mood.
I think it's. I'm gonna say this shit again, which I say with. I think it's his most mature album. I think it's got a mix of everything on it. I think it's got songs like Blinding Lights, which gives you the flavor of Kissland.
Yeah.
But then he's got just trap bangers like Heartless or like Faith. Faith, I love that song. That song goes because it's Metro Booming
Yeah,
who produced
again,
it, which is just when
same
you
as
know it's
Heartless.
Metro Booming, you're like, this is gonna go
It's gonna
insane.
go off, yeah.
Metro
And as well,
Boomin turns
Escape to
us into a
LA.
mosh pit.
Yeah.
Escape to LA is very much similar to the trilogy
Yeah.
time era as well. It's very like the seductive tracks
yeah,
that he
where
would
it has
release.
those what was the song called? Glass Table Girls.
Oh
House of Balloons.
god,
House of Balloons, Glass Table Girls. Like
That
those
is
songs,
so good.
it gave
Such a
me
good
it
song,
gave me
sorry.
that feeling of where he used to have the two songs in one, where
Yeah.
it kind of feels like a song is before he's gone out, and
Yeah.
then
And then
because
afterwards
it
it's
is
like
the
the
story
downtime.
is about like
Yeah.
the after fact of like the girl coming to the studio,
the
and it's
party
kind
and
of
the
just
after
like exactly.
Literally.
Which I just love that from Trilogy.
But
I
I-
think Trilogy is
Yeah.
still.
I think
my
I think the after hours the way it was set up, like Heartless came out first, and obviously he'd broken up with Bella Hadid earlier in the year. So I felt like that first song that came out, like Never Need a Bitch and What a Bitch Needs, was like this, he's back to his old ways. He's partying, he's getting with 90s
Oh, he's heartless.
girls.
He's
Literally.
quite
But
literally.
It's a character though. If you listen to there's an arc throughout the entire album. It's all about the arc of the guy who's like debating whether he should go back to his old ways.
Yeah.
Like
The
alone,
whole thought
even
of
even
Vegas,
yeah.
just the whole theme of it, just him feeling that he wants to change. He tried to change and actually become better for this girl, but then it ended up falling apart for some reason. And then he's like, I don't know any better way to deal with it but to turn back into this
Yeah.
person.
The
and just-
relapse.
Yeah, the relapse.
essentially what it is.
Do everything that I know is bad for me, but it makes me feel good in that situation, so I'm gonna do it and not really give a shit about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Abel. Abel. No, but it's just listening for say like the star of the album. Like I'm just looking at it here. I'm like, ooh. Yeah. So you can hear it Alone Again, it's just like,
Yeah.
shit, I'm like
It's
stuck
it's
in this
like-
predicament
it's like
again.
It's straight after the breakup. You're like, oh my god, what am I gonna do?
Then you go from like through each track, and then when you get to the part of where it's Save Your Tears, you can just tell that it's like, look, we might go back to what we were, but I don't want that anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm over it. And then obviously, I feel like Over Now is kind of like his way of saying that character, that persona that I was like leading on with is like, we're done with it. We're going to move on to the next big thing.
That's kind of where you can tell. It's kind of like he's woken up hungover and he's like, I can't do this anymore. Like, whether his body can't take it, whether his mind is just like, he's made it up where he's just like, I know I enjoy this, but I can't. Like, it's just impossible for me to keep doing this. And it's kind of him just having a thought to himself where he's like,
Yeah.
this needs
It's
something
a
needs to change.
it's a really like niche reference, but there's a Mesto song called Don't Worry, and the music video behind that is basically like this girl's boyfriend has died, and she's just drinking every single day. She loses her job, and then all of a sudden she has this like change of heart, and it's like the boyfriend's ghost sending subliminal messages. And so then she just bins all the alcohol, she starts running, she gets back into a job, like she moves out, she gets a nice house, she finds someone new. It's sort of like that sort of like link is kind of like the story he's trying to
Is
tell.
it more of a case that if you think, like, say you lose a loved one, and then you think, well, they wouldn't want to see me moping about anymore. What would they want for me? Like, what would they want if when I'm gone, sort of thing? Like, they wouldn't want me to be moping about. They want me to be progressing and moving forward. So that's kind of what you've like touching upon, and that's kind of what it's like. I don't want to fall down this hole of like breaking up with Bella Hadid again and being like, I'm getting that right, am I? But yeah,
Were they together twice? Did they break up?
Yeah,
Then he went
yeah.
out with Selena Gomez, and
And
then
that was
they were
when
back.
he had My Dear Melancholy was after
The Selena.
him and Selena
Yeah.
broke up and he went back to
Yeah, because
Bella.
he said he had like this whole album of like really like feel good songs, and that's like never gonna see the light of day.
Because it was when he
Because-
was going
yeah.
out with...
Yeah, and My Dear Melancholy came out like in replacement of that. I feel.
Yeah, it was definitely like reactionary. It was like
Yeah.
he just needed... Because he has a lot of help with production on that with Nicolas Jarre, and he does
Yeah.
stuff with Gesaffelstein.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it feels like they broke up, and with them being French and German, French and Italian producers, it seems like he was just like, I need to get away. He probably went, met them in Italy or France, and was just like, let's make some music. I need to get my mind off of this.
Yeah.
But his mind was on that
Yeah.
darker type of vibe, and that's what My Dear Melancholy is.
Yeah.
it hits hard though.
I really enjoyed
My Dear Melancholy. That even that last bit when it was like the really compressed vocal line, and you're like, Jesus, I felt that. The goosebumps are kicking in. I couldn't tell you. It's been a while since I've listened to the EP.
Yeah, because they did an a cappella version of Call Out My Name on that, and then
I think Call Out My Name is probably my least favourite one on it. I think it's a really good song,
yeah,
but I think what's
You know, it's a good point to make, because I feel the reason why I think After Hours is my favorite Weekend album at the moment is because it's so consistent.
Privilege.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that song is amazing. It's just so stripped back.
yeah.
He just sounds so defeated.
You know what?
He's just like, oh.
I'd also
He's talking about
say
enjoy your privileged life. He's like, just go do you.
Yeah.
I know
you're a model. Everyone
Yeah.
loves you. Go be adored by people other than me. But I actually think, because Gesaffelstein's on a couple of the songs, obviously produced it, I actually really like Lost in the Fire, which was Gesaffelstein's
I love that.
song.
Yeah, him and Gesaffelstein seem to have a really good connection, because I think it's been for a while since Kissland again, when he has Odd Look with Kavinsky,
Yeah.
where
yeah.
he has this, he loves his European kind of electric producers.
Yeah.
Daft Punk.
Daft
Punk, yeah.
Frenchy French.
So he clearly has this little kink with that, where he's just like,
Yeah.
shit's going bad, let's make a song with a European
Yeah.
producer. But he works well with it, because on those songs he's never, I wouldn't say he's never like using his best vocals. He's normally just like, because the beat is different.
Yeah.
It's not a Call Out My Name where he's
Yeah.
just like
It's sort of
screaming to the sky.
it's less of like an emotional vent. It's just like a vent in some way, shape, or form. Because I think Lost in the Fire, was almost a
That's
dig
a
at
Drake.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
dig at Drake, wasn't it? Because he goes, "I just want a baby with the right one, because I could never be the one to hide one."
Yeah.
Was a dig at
Ooh.
Drake from beef that
They've
Drake
been
Drake
on
had
and
like
off.
a 3 or 4-year-old kid, and no one knew. And I think it came out.
Is that how albino? It looks
think
like
so.
that,
it's-
yeah.
I think
'Cause that came
Lost
out-
in the Fire came out a couple months after the news came out about.
Yeah, but I
Drake's
think
kid.
there was other beef between Drake and someone else. I would not be able to tell you who it was.
Not Pusha T?
Pusha T, was it? Yeah, Pusha T, because Pusha T did the album with Kanye, and that's why Kanye
Daytona?
and Drake.
Is it Daytona? Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's why Drake and Kanye, because I'm pretty sure they used to be they were neighbors.
Do you know what's funny? Have you heard the Kanye song, the one that goes poopity scoop, scoopity whoop
Yeah,
poop?
yeah.
That beat was supposed to be for Drake, but then Kanye was like, "Fuck you! I'm just gonna make a piss take song."
Yeah,
and that
I
still
think that's
slaps.
after They had that argument,
Yeah.
and then he was just like, "I'm gonna waste this beat, so you can never use it."
It was something to do with
That's like the ultimate fuck you, because it's just like
Yeah.
you know they worked on that together,
Yeah.
and they would have been when they were good friends, and then just out of nowhere. Imagine Drake hearing that and just being like,
Think about the missed collaborations that we have yet to hear as well. The fact that we haven't listened to Kanye and Drake collab properly yet.
Yeah.
They were supposed to do an album
I
together.
think we haven't heard The Weeknd and Drake together.
The OVO
in-
XO
Since
collaboration.
True Love?
Yeah, I think probably since.
How long ago was True
since
Love?
True Love. True Love was
2013. 2013, yeah.
early 2013. Because what
Christ.
trilogy? Well, not trilogy, but the 3 separate albums.
So Trilogy,
yeah.
Beauty Behind the Madness, Kissland,
No, Kissland was
Kissland,
before
Beauty Behind the Madness,
Starboy.
then Starboy, then My Dear Melancholy, and now
True Love was 2011.
What?
So
10
So-
years nearly.
So that is that not the? I don't think that's the last time because we heard them together on one of the weekends.
He was
Part
in
Self,
he was
yeah.
in a music video
He
with
was in
him,
one of
which
the
was
Weeknd's,
Reminder.
He was on Trilogy.
Drake was in the Reminder music video.
You are right about Drake was on Live For
Yeah.
This stuff that I live for. Yeah.
Yeah, not Trilogy. Kissland.
and also The Zone.
Yeah. Both very good tracks.
The Weeknd doesn't really collaborate with that many people though, like in terms of his solo.
It's
work.
usually
Doesn't
really
he?
big
He
producers.
doesn't normally- He
It was-
normally goes
yeah.
with the producers because he doesn't because he can do.
His most frequent is Lana, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's Stargirl.
Yeah, she's Stargirl.
That's
so
why.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Makes sense. They've definitely clapped. They must have done.
Yeah.
They must have done.
Okay. let's move on.
Album number 2 of the year.
Alright, let's move on from that. Then. So
Right.
we kind of spoke about TikTok there. It's been a mad year with TikTok and music.
Oh, yeah.
I think I've got a note down here saying, could this year be considered a year of the year of singles or the year of one-off tracks? Because some of the biggest tracks that I could think of
It's
are
funny you say that.
tracks
Yeah.
by smaller artists, or yeah. To me, I think
Take
it's
Megan
smaller
Thee
artists.
Stallion. Like Megan Thee Stallion has. I think you made a point there of saying, artists who are maybe one-off hits, just like one-hit wonders, or artists who have just like small artists have just come out of nowhere. Say Megan Thee Stallion did Savage, and then now she's been on a consistent roll of just releasing tracks.
Yeah,
And
Beyonce.
now she's done WAP.
Beyonce did a version of that.
Yeah,
that
Beyonce
included her.
remixed it. That's how big she's become now.
Yeah. But I think maybe even going back to Joji, like all of the best songs personally that I think, other than maybe Pretty Boy, were singles that came out before the album. Like Daylight, Sanctuary, Run,
Give
they
Me
were
Love.
they were all yeah.
Give Me
They
Love
were
was
all
great.
singles before they were albums. Like we knew the album was coming.
Mm-hmm.
They knew it was going to be part of the album.
Yeah.
But they were all individually released, all had their music videos come out the same day that it was released.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's almost like he knew this is the hype I need
Yeah.
in order to kind of build that audience. I love the album, but I was expecting something in terms of like another feature with Diplo, maybe even a different producer or something like that.
What
but
do you want to speak about Omar Apollo? Because I remember you.
Yeah. So,
I'm a
well,
fan of
hi.
him. I quite like.
You like? I like Omar
He brought
Apollo.
out an album a couple of days ago,
Yeah.
which I think is actually really good. Have you heard of Omar?
Omar, he's a bedroom pop artist who produces his own music, and he's very, very like good at guitar.
it does ring a bell, yeah.
Yeah, and but they did High Hopes together, and I was just thinking on the way here, like, I actually really don't like that track. I think Joji sounds great on it.
I was so disappointed because I
Yeah.
saw Omar as a feature, and I was like, yes. And used Tumor, who's on it as well, who I only started listening to recently. I was really excited to see that, and then 80% of the song is kind of a intro because it's quite heavily produced, and then it kind of gets into it, and then it ends really like too
Yeah, I was
early.
just gonna say because I was when you hear Omar Apollo's apart, there's a line that I was like, what the fuck are you trying to say? He's like, brand new whips sound like Cheerio, wake me up, Rey Mysterio. What the fuck?
Bars.
Like bars. Like I respect Omar Apollo as an artist, but like fuck off. Like you don't come on the Joji track again, please, because
You know what? That Cheerios line reminded me of a TMG song as well. You know,
Let's
back
save TMG for another podcast. 'Cause I
Yeah,
think they are worth
yeah.
having their own
for
their own
sure.
part about. But with Omar, it was for me. It was a real shame. Like now, I'm kind of fine with it because he brought out an album which was actually quite good. But when
it's
I
a good
heard
beat though. Don't get me wrong. It's a good
is-
beat. It's just
a
such an
good beat,
underwhelming
but
song.
Yeah, the vocals and just the lyrics just weren't the best. But
What are we feeling in terms of our favorite songs on the album?
let's have a look with it. I really like the first few intro songs. So what? It starts with
So
Ew and then goes into
Ew,
Modus.
yeah. Here's the thing. I was thinking about this as well. Like the other day, whenever I hear the end of Ew, you know, it's very like haunting, sinister sort of ending.
Yeah.
Have you guys have watched The Revenant?
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah. You know the ending scene where DiCaprio just like kind of like turns and looks into the camera. I can also kind of envision like listening to that end sequence of the orchestral pieces in Ooh and just that and
Yeah.
DiCaprio looking down a camera
Yeah.
because it's so like haunting and saddening and sorrow. Like it's like ooh.
It was a really strong. I know we've gone back onto Joji again. We kind of help it because it's been one of the best. 100% one of the best albums of the year for me. I think you'd both agree. As
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
But I think Ooh is a brilliant opener.
Yeah.
It's simple in a way.
It reminds
but
me
the
of
production is great.
It reminds me of In Tongues
Mm-hmm.
in terms
Yeah.
of that like really melancholy sort of feel.
Just quite simple piano
Yeah.
with nice like haunting orchestra in the background, and
Yeah.
his vocals instantly you're like, oh, his vocals have definitely at least improved. Like
Yeah.
not tenfold, but you're like, oh, this is Joji's voice at his best.
Yeah.
On the topic of vocals though, I'd say Run is his best vocal performance
Yeah.
Yeah.
to date. Like he's hitting them falsetto notes well, like really well.
Which is something I would have never necessarily attached. Like even if we were talking earlier about Will He's one of his slower songs where you'd expect like his vocals to have to be mad for it to be
Yeah.
great, but he, as I said earlier, he does a really good way of like finessing his way around the beat
Yeah.
to still make it sound good, even if he's
Well,
not
yeah.
just like doing some.
Yeah, he just harmonizes
shit,
with
yeah.
himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Like because I think he did
Good at layering his vocals.
yeah, he did Jimmy Kimmel Live or something. One of
Yeah.
the
He
the
did
late
Run,
shows.
didn't he?
Yeah, he did Run.
I think it's
But
Fallon.
he doesn't do one. He doesn't do the high notes.
Yeah.
He just holds the sort of run,
Yeah.
like that sort of like he doesn't go high pitch. He relies on
Well,
the
he
backup
knows his
singers for it.
boundaries. He knows his
Yeah.
boundaries. He's not.
It's like when he does slow dancing in the dark.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't do the full like shouts. He lets the audience do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. When he does it in the, and then he'll
Yeah,
chuck it to
and
the
then he just
crowd,
flips the
because-
mic. Yeah.
Which is smart because like
It saves
some
his
people,
voice.
maybe like 5% of the crowd will be disappointed because they're just like, that's. I want
Yeah.
to hear it. I don't want him to. It might feel like a bit of a cop out to them.
Yeah.
But I think if it's gonna mess up your voice or if you
Yeah.
just can't hear, then just leave
Yeah.
it out.
So do you think that maybe like in terms of like not being able to do the notes live and stuff like that, do you think like he has a very specific type of like genre of music that he has to stick to? Do you think he's going to evolve his sound much, or is he going to keep to the same sort of like vibe where he's always harmonizing with himself? There aren't these strong, powerful sort of ballad notes that you'd expect from like other people that might be sort of producing the same music.
You know, it's funny you say that because I feel like this album, Nectar, in general, has shown quite a few different genres that he could peel into. Let's take 777. It's kind of shown that he could potentially become and do what The Weeknd did and do synth pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
completely different. I was listening to it earlier, and it still kind of shocked me when I hear it because I'm just like, that's so completely different. There's no points where he's trying to turn it into some. It's one of those songs where it couldn't have lived on ballads. It wouldn't have made sense on ballads, but on this it can make sense because before it you've got like Afterthought. You've got Pretty Boy before that, so you've already had kind of that mix of, oh, there's some really big songs, but there's also these more like fun beats
Yeah.
bumping, like it's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
it's a bit different. So it doesn't shock you where you're just like, oh, what's this? Why is it making me groove rather than cry?
I mean, Ron is like it's a rock track.
Yeah.
It's a rock track. We've got a bloody guitar solo on it. Like,
Because he plays on that as well when he I'm pretty sure it's Fallon. On Fallon, he's kind of playing with having that guy who's just doing that. He's doing the vocals a bit, but he's not fully with it because the beat is so heavy and like it's like revving up at the end.
Yeah.
When you have the really big guitar solo.
Yeah.
That his vocals aren't really the focal point of the song at that point.
It's more. Don't just listen to my voice. It's almost like a show in each song.
Yeah.
Like his instruments to it, like no pun intended, but his instruments to the song that don't just make it like, oh, here's me singing about a certain something. Like this is an entire sort of like experience in itself. Like the guitar solo, that has feeling to it. Like each piano key, like it all has a specific meaning to it that goes with the vocals. It's not just this sort of like, oh, here's this beat that's 130 BPM. I'm gonna freestyle on it. Like some people do.
Do you know, Run is actually an interesting track, and even probably one of the most interesting tracks on the album because it's a rock track. It's got a solo. It's got hitting loads of high falsetto notes, and also the time signature isn't 4/4. Usually, every single track, most in the album, is just 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. Whereas Run is in 6/8 time signature, so it's 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. If you really like think about it, the guitars are in 1/3. The beat is in the beat is all in 6/8. Obviously, there's like certain intervals that may change into different time signatures, but that is something he could potentially explore is messing around with different time signatures, which is kind of maybe going down the route of jazz.
Yeah.
But I'm all for seeing Joji go into jazz because already he's taking instrument. Yeah, like you do, and Modus as well. It kind of got that like nice piano sound to it, which can be explored with the jazzy
Because
elements.
like you do, with that song, he really has nothing to hide behind. It's as stripped back of a Joji's song as you'd get. I can't remember much of a beat on it except for the piano. Yeah, it's just piano. But that song, that's where you're like, oh, let's hope his voice sounds really good. He does have a really good voice on it. In my opinion, I think he sounds great. It sounds sincere. He sounds kind of sad with it, and you're just like, oh, it's a nice track. It's a balanced one type of track.
Yeah. I also think like the one track with Diplo, in terms of him being able to do all of these beat signatures, like you've said, doing something with Diplo is only going to help him produce his own music more. Like learning so much shit. Like how long has Diplo been producing music?
The thing about Diplo is as well. There's an intro. I was looking at the producing credits of the album, and one that stood out for me was Daylight. The fact that it's Diplo and then another guy, Greg Kurstin. Do you know who Greg Kurstin is? So he produced Hello. He produced Adele's Hello. He produced the last Foo Fighters album. He produced pretty much, when Sia was popping off.
Yeah.
All them songs like
Chandelier.
I don't know if he did Chandelier. What's that? Elastic Hearts. Yeah.
Oh, Elastic Hearts. Yeah.
He's produced loads of big artists. I can't name them all the top of my head, but like Sia and Adele.
I guess that's one of those things where like you have so much focus on
Liam
the
Gallagher
actual
as well.
singer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he produced Wall of Glass.
That shows he's getting in the room with the right people. Yeah. They must have some sort of respect for his music, or his work ethic when he's in the studio, how he's... Because they must be like, why are you using Garage... That must be their first question. Why are you using GarageBand?
Yeah, well, this guy uses Logic Pro, so he must have been like, okay, we can just like take that up and like convert that into a Logic file.
It's a nice start, Joji.
Yeah.
I'm sure you tried your best.
Show you some real speed.
But I guess it's the same sort of thing as like Pooh Bear, who like
Justin Bieber's writer.
Yeah. He produces songs, he writes songs, like he does so much, and then he just came out randomly with a song with Skrillex, where he was actually singing in the song. So like there's so many people that just don't get credit.
It's one of those where Skrillex fans would have been like, who are you? And then it's like, oh, he's been in the room every time a big song's been made over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But he hasn't been mentioned unless you
Getting
delve down
absolutely
the
no
Wikipedia.
credit. But
Yeah.
I guess at the same time, you sort of go, wait, he's writing songs for Justin Bieber and he's featuring with Skrillex?
Mhm.
Like, that's like apples and pears. Like, it's a completely different genres of music. And I guess you could say the same thing with, like, Diplo and Joji. Like, before they announced that they were doing a song together, you'd have never said, oh, like, they're match made in heaven. And then they produce a song like that.
Did you think it was going to be an EDM song when you first heard?
I was
I thought it was
expecting
going to be
it.
very different.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it didn't come out as surprising as I thought it would be. Because it's...
Diplo is I'd argue he's the most polarizing figure in music. Think about all the groups he's in. He's in
Yeah.
Major Lazer.
Major Lazer,
He's,
Jack
he's
U.
just Jack U, LSD, which is Labyrinth Seer, Diplo, and also
Diplo.
also himself. And then what's the
Yeah.
one with Mark Ronson? Silk City.
Silk City, yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, and
He's
I-
busy.
He's a busy boy, man. He's a
got
busy
his-
guy.
Fingers in all the pies.
Yeah.
But I feel like this song in particular took influence from the country album he did.
Yeah.
He did a weird country album that I think after Old Town. Is it called Old Town
Old
Road?
Town Road,
Yeah.
yeah.
Old Town Road came out, and he was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna make a country album."
Well, he's from the South, isn't he? He's Texan.
Yeah.
I think he might.
Doesn't
yeah,
he in the
probably.
video? Doesn't he have a part where he's got like
Yeah,
a
he's in the
cowboy
video.
He's a
hat?
cowboy, yeah.
Yeah. He's kind of like...
Because
it's
the
very in your face when
yeah,
you're just
'cause
like,
the-
this is what...
the
this is what I'm going
single
for.
like the photo for
Yeah.
Daylight as a single, it's them like on horses going into the sunset.
Oh,
Isn't
really?
it? Yeah. I'm pretty sure it is. It's something to do. It's something to do with the
Daylight
sunset.
could have been made during that period where he made the country album. He might have thought it doesn't quite hit. It doesn't quite fit. the
I'd say country. I
album,
think it takes
but
elements of the
Yeah,
country
yeah.
genre and
He
makes it
probably
into a
learned
pop
quite a
album.
lot from making the country album and thought, the stuff I've learned from this might fit a Joji song
Yeah.
better.
It's them riding off into the sunset. Yeah. Funny that, eh?
It's just a weird. It was a weird thing to see that Diplo's collaborating with Joji. I was like, oh, what universe do we live
Yeah.
in?
But
Like,
I guess because that came out before the album, I think it made you sort of think, who else is he like making songs with? Because I guess like you can get really optimistic and be like, oh, he might be doing one with like a mate of Diplo. He could be doing one with Skrillex. Is he gonna get one with Calvin Harris? Or in the future, now that the album's out, is Diplo
I don't think
the
he will
next
collaborate
step?
with Calvin Harris. I don't think he will, because Calvin Harris is very particular of the people he chooses. Have you seen interviews with him? He's just like, I don't want to pick him because I don't know why I'm doing Yorkshire.
Calvin
Harris.
the Calvin Harris has just entered the room, guys.
Yeah, because he's like,
Calvin, do you want to say anything?
he picks people
Scotland.
who he picks people that he thinks are talented. Joji being talented, but you might think, fucking hell, this guy's a YouTuber. Like, why would I want to collaborate with him?
Yeah, cancel Joji.
Calvin Harris is a lot safer than Diplo. Where Diplo's like, if something doesn't hit, then it doesn't hit. But Calvin Harris is one of those where it seems like every song he makes, maybe, well, we're speaking about Over now recently. They
50
brought out
million,
with,
50 million streams, I think.
which
the
is
last
still
time I checked.
big for one where I'd say I'm a very big The Weeknd fan, but it's definitely not one of my favourite songs. It was quite underwhelming, to be honest, for a song with Calvin Harris. He's one where I feel like he wants every single song to be an absolute banger.
It has to
like
pop
like
off,
a
yeah.
slide where he has it
It's
with
funny you
Migos
say that.
and
He's
Frank
changed
Ocean.
his stance on it because he just released his new alias, the Love Regenerator.
Oh.
Have you heard?
That might be where he takes more risks.
So
Live Without Your Love.
yeah, but he basically said it with the interview with Annie Mac. He was like, I've done everything. I've got all the platinum records. I've got all the awards. I've got all the, like number ones. Like, what else do I need? So now he's just doing songs that he enjoys producing.
His residual income from stuff he even did like 5 years ago.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
making
he'll-
something like 25 mil a year
Yeah.
off of stuff he made like Bounce. That's still
He's
making like
big
200
chilling.
grand a year from him.
He is big chilling off of royalties.
Yeah.
Because those songs, those are songs where they're going to be played in clubs or
Yeah.
bars or they're going to be on Spotify playlists somewhere
Yeah.
forever.
You're gonna
At
ha-
least the next 20
yeah.
years.
Like you're gonna have like radio presenters who are like, oh, let's do a throwback to the 2010s. Here's like 50 songs by Calvin Harris.
Yeah,
And like and
literally.
if he's getting like 50p per play or whatever the royalties are, Like, think about how much he could be getting on a yearly basis. The number of songs he has and the number of radio stations, let alone the streams. You get like 4/10 of a penny per stream.
Yeah, it's like because they do. With the CPM, they do it normally per 1,000 listens.
Yeah.
I believe they do. I know they do per 1,000 views on YouTube, and they'll have some type of percentage that they're getting. But if his music's being played a couple thousand times a day, which at the moment is probably a couple million times a day, and he's not having to release anything, then he's good for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, like if I'm driving to or from work, I'll listen to either the local channel 103 or it's Radio 1, and I will easily hear Over Now twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the half hour I'm driving to work and the half hour I'm driving from work. And you've got another 5 or 6 different like radio presenters throughout the day who are probably playing the same stuff because it's in the charts. Yeah.
It's because he knows when he makes a song with The Weeknd, it's like an investment he makes where he's like, I know The Weeknd is going to have bangers and he's going to be around for a while. Yeah. So if they ever think, oh, let's play The Weeknd song, they might be like, oh, why don't we play the one with Calvin Harris? Kills 2 birds with 1 stone. He might not think the same about somebody like Joji, where he's like, Joji might be a bit of a flash in the pan, where he's popular for 6 months, but might not
it's
have...
It's an instant blow up. It's a YouTube number 1 trending for the week.
Thing,
yeah. Like, he doesn't care.
He might want to penetrate the Asian market, though, and be like, oh, I want to get in that Korean, that 88 Rising scene.
All he'd have to do is rock up to one of their 88 Rising tour shows and just be like, oh, make some noise for Calvin Harris. He plays a couple of his old songs, does whatever song he'd do with Rich Brian, Joji, Nicki, any of the 88 Rising guys. He could literally just press play and stand there.
Yeah.
And as long as he is seen in a recording or a live stream,
it's not that easy to be a DJ. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. You gotta beat match. You've gotta.
Fuck you guys.
Yeah. Andy is a music producer, by the way.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, he doesn't talk about it much, but
so he's
we're
the one
gonna
who
talk about
actually knows anything of worth.
Yeah.
About music.
Hence him talking.
Kyle just have opinions.
Yeah. we just like music and we like some people.
Yeah.
No, but I prefer listening to like people who are not like involved with music. Like I've got loads of music friends who will blab on about, but it's not got a Phrygian feel. Like you guys wouldn't probably have a fucking clue what I'm saying.
You're just saying words, man.
Yeah. And I'm like, as long as it slaps, as long as it's bopping, as long as my hips are moving in the club, that's all I give a fuck about.
Hips don't lie.
Hips don't lie. I think we end it on that. That's a great way to end it.
Yeah, we're an hour in now, so
there's some topics which we didn't manage to get on.
Before I feel like just because we didn't get to the question, name the best song, your favorite song off Nectar, and then I think end it there.
Favorite song off Nectar. Okay.
I'm gonna go with Sanctuary, the first song that was released, because it still slaps, it's still good. Full synth mode, that's what we love to see.
Oh, this is unfair.
Kyle, have you got one? Or?
I know what Kyle's in.
I feel.
I feel.
I think he's going for Run.
I might have to either go for Run or Pretty Boy. Just because Run came out before the album, but Pretty Boy is probably the one that, from the songs you hadn't heard before the album came out, Pretty Boy is the one that, if it comes on, I'm vibing to it. But if you put on Ew and you're like out having drinks with your mates, you're going to sort of be like, yeah, you could probably put on something better. Like mood-wise, like Pretty Boy is something you could put on.
He has a lot of songs on the album where it's songs for you, not songs for like a group.
Going out, going drinking, like a breeze.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. A really good point.
Like, I think the song TikTok is brilliant because I think it's a good mix of I could play it with a group of people and it be fun enough and bouncy enough for everybody to like it, even if they're not a Joji fan, but it still has the hints of like old Joji type production. But all in all, I don't know what I'd give it. Let's go
out of 10.
Out of 10.
7.5 for me.
7.5.
Because I think all like this album kind of is it's a good. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I thought you were going to speak there. But yeah, it's his. I like you said, the most mature album he's done. The best well produced album he's done, but there's in some places it's very lackluster. After say High Hopes, it's a bit lackluster.
I think it does slowly. It tails off quite not the best.
I feel
at the end
feel
of the
like
album. There's some highlights later in the album, but I think the first half of the album there's not much that you could complain.
The thing is, though, the reason why I wouldn't give it more, and a reason why I'm giving it a 0.5, like the additional 0.5, is because there's so much room for potential, like so much room for improvement. But it's still like
He's consistently
solid.
improving.
Yeah.
From album to album.
Each album's been a stepping stone.
Yeah.
Like in terms of features, in terms of his sound, in terms of his voice, how his voice is maturing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
What are you going for?
Ooh. I want to say, just because I loved all of the songs that came out before the official release, I want to give it a 7. But I feel like the way I feel the next album is going to be, or the next single he's going to come out with, the way he's evolved, it makes me so much more excited for like the future of it. Like, I love the album. I can listen to it all the way through.
That this isn't just a one-off thing where it's just like, oh, he's getting views because he's still Filthy Frank. Yeah. No, he's separate. Those fans are still going to be loyal to him. Yeah. But he has built his own fan base that might even be bigger than his initial fan base that he had based on solely his music.
Yeah. It feels like each album has been like a stepping stone that isn't just like a meter. It's like compounding.
It's consistent.
Like it's gone from
it's exponential.
Yeah, it's gone from like In Tongues was like 5 meters. Then Ballads was like 50, and now this one, he's got Diplo, he's got Lil Yachty, he's got really big names, and so this is now taking him like a kilometer down the line, rather than just like a few extra 100 meters. Yeah,
I think I'm going for 7.83 recurring. 7.83 recurring.
What's that as a fraction?
yeah. We'll put the maths in the description just in case you're like that. But yeah, I think it's a great album. I think you've both hit the nail on the head with it. I think it's great. I think it's one of the best albums of the year. I think it's probably worth waiting another month or two for us to do our best albums of the year. See if there's anything.
I've already got mine, to be fair, and it's been out since March.
Don't mention it. We'll do that on a separate podcast where we go through our
cliffhanger ending.
Cliffhanger. You've got to come back for the next one.
like, share, and subscribe for part 2.
Perfect. Okay, I think we'll end it there.
Yeah.
If you are watching it on YouTube, if you want to subscribe to Smoke Breaks YouTube channel, give it a like if you enjoyed it. Give it a dislike if you hate us. If there's anything you want us to speak about,
any artists, any albums that we might not have talked about.
I'd love to speak about some Jersey artists as well.
Yeah,
that would be really good.
Yeah, we're all from an island called Jersey, which we haven't mentioned, but that would be great to do an episode.
New Jersey, Jersey in the Channel Islands.
From our accents, you
Crown
can tell we're not
We
American.
European.
Yeah, we European for a bit. So if you're listening to this on SoundCloud, obviously if you could follow us, that'd be great. So peace.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Ciao.